Alright, and I thought I'd do some talking today, so hopefully I'm not in the shop too much. And where did I put my... Oh, there's my controller. Alright, and let's try to get something in I can kind of zone out on. I don't think I'm in front of the camera. We'll find out later. So, I guess I was going to talk about my time at Nintendo, and we'll see where that goes from there. Um, so I graduated from the Art Institute of Seattle. This was, 2002? And I was working at the library as a student assistant at the time. And while I was there, I guess I found a temp agency that actually works for Nintendo, and applied and got onto working there under contract for the temp agency, who and then in turn worked for Nintendo. So, oops. Of course, I'm not worrying about this because I'm talking at the same time. So, working at Nintendo was interesting. The first couple projects I did was actually working on quality assurance. So, the first game I worked on was the very first Animal Crossing on the GameCube. And of course, knowing my background, working at the library and whatnot, they decided to put me on text and grammar. So basically, you're trying to pop, well, especially on, what was it, Animal Crossing specifically, you had to bring up all the messages in game and check them. So checking those kind of things in Animal Crossing was more of a challenge, because to get certain items to pop, you actually had to do certain variables. So it had to be, you had to keep your town clean for 3 days. You had to make sure that you caught a fish the prior day. You had to send a letter to a certain personality that was in town. All of which, if you did all these things, would give you 1 out of 6 responses. So checking every single message that was in game was excruciating. You could spend 7 to 8 hours testing the game just to get one message to pop out of one of those sixes, or 6 possible answers. Things like, game related things that or nomenclature specifically for that game were highlighted in red, and if they weren't, that was considered a bug. So you had to write all this stuff down, and or the most fun thing at Nintendo was doing bug testing like that. Was you would have the GameCube connected, or their dev kit connected to a VHS player. Um, and if you got a bug and you wrote it down and you didn't have it on tape, it didn't exist. So you had to make sure that, yeah, it was on tape when you submitted bugs. Um, Now the thing that I did after that was what they call lot check, and lot check was basically, the Nintendo seal of approval. It was doing that kind of testing. So does the game reset at any point in the game? Does the game pause at any moment in the game? All the animated? I mean, are all the load screens animated? That way you can tell if the game actually froze or not during a load screen. Um, does it? So at that point in lot check, the games were supposed to be done. Um, so they weren't supposed to have bugs. So Nintendo would have this big, giant, huge contract that they would send you if you were making a Nintendo game as a licensee, and you they would give it to you ahead of time. But I think the only games that ever passed the first time through were first party stuff because they actually knew what was required. Now, here's a side thing. One of the games that I worked or tested when it came through, um, we'll leave the name out of it, but the game didn't make it the first time through, which is normal for most games. Apparently, the company that fired their director, or was the producer, one of the two anyway, because it didn't pass lot check the first time. Now, each time you submit to Nintendo, that's like $10,000 because you have to pay all the testers. You have to. Um, it takes time and obviously, resources to do these things. Um, so that was a little. Oops, I knew I shouldn't have done that. That was a nice little anecdote. Um, what was the third game I was on? Oh, it was the opposite of um, Animal Crossing, which was Super Mario. I mean, Kart Double Dash. Um, so if you knew what you were doing in that game, you can actually beat the entire game in 6.5 hours. So if you're on text and you had to check, the last screen for grammar or spelling errors, which does happen in between build changes, um, yeah, you could actually be done checking all the text in the game in 6.5 hours. So the rest of the time you're checking for other bugs like the other teams were doing. So if like Luigi's hat was red, that's a bug. If the game crashes, obviously it's a bug. But yeah, the little things like that, like Luigi's hat being red instead of green, people did. Oh, it's like okay, that's interesting. It's like no, it's a bug. Write it down. Um, some people actually got fired because they weren't finding enough bugs, and it's like, dude, you need to find this stuff. But anyway, um, now the last game I did was actually before I did Super Mario Kart. I was supposed to be on Pikmin 3, but when they announced it, or it's not 3, it was 2, sorry. When they announced it, that they were going to be testing the game, we were there, me and two other guys were there. And normally a team would be like 30 people. Um, um, but they decided to push back the release, so they didn't bring us back. Um, but I guess when they were doing Super Mario Double Dash, they brought us back because they felt bad, right? Oh, I guess I did some interim stuff, which was Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. What was it? Master Quest. Of course, I know I'm a huge gamer. Everybody knows this, but I never had played Ocarina of Time before um, playing Master Quest, which kind of dropped the jaws of a lot of people there. But that being said, they were kind of surprised I was able to keep up without the cheat sheet that they had or the walkthrough. I said, well, I've played games before, guys, but the last game. Okay, so going back, the last game I actually tested was Wind Waker. So Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, and that was the happy medium. So it was a long game, but the text wasn't random, which was kind of nice. So let me see. So things that happened whilst I was there. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Donkey Kong. Um, so yeah, okay. So what was it? There was a big contention about the lunch break when I was on Wind Waker because I was tired of having an hour-long break, which was too long, and people didn't want to have a half an hour break because it was too short. So, I mean, if everybody went to the commissary at the same time, which is a really nice cafeteria style, but it was more like restaurant food, um, it could take 20-25 minutes to get your food if you got there later than everybody else. So, I would play, I mean, I would eat, and then I would go into their little museum area where they actually had a Donkey Kong machine, and I would play Donkey Kong while waiting for everybody else to finish their lunch. Um, and that was also right beside the official gaming store that they had on site. So, or the Nintendo store they had on site. So you can, purchase, pretty much anything that was current. But then they would have, refurbished GameCubes and Game Boy Advances and stuff like that at the time. Um, Little known fact was right when I started there was right when they stopped repairing the original Nintendo. So like they were supporting the original Nintendo. If you sent it into them, and I think it was up to like 2001, 2002, they still had the parts to fix those. But once they didn't have the parts anymore, made made it pretty difficult. Now the other thing too is if you sent in your controllers with it, they would cut the cables, throw them away, and replace them with the dog bone controllers because they don't want to get the lawsuits, right? um, what are the other things? The headquarters is split into two buildings. There's actually a sky bridge that connects the two. They also call it the was it Link to the Past is the name, or is some kind of Zelda reference for the bridge between the two buildings. Um, Now, in the first building is also where. Oh man, that was close. Um, where the what do you call it? Well, let's just say they had break rooms there, and they're split in two. They're really large break rooms. Probably I don't know, 30 by 40 feet. And they were split by a wall in the middle with little small windows at about halfway up. Now the one on the right, which had all the vending machines, um, really nice vending machines, had a Nintendo Super System arcade machine, a Cruisin' World, or USA, yeah, Cruisin' USA arcade machine, and an NFL Blitz. Now here's where the things start getting hairy. On the opposite room was the smoking room, and again it had all the tables and stuff, same kind of size, um, but they had a row of arcade machines. Those arcade machines. Oh, there's also a kitchenette. They didn't have the what do you call it? Vending machines, but they had a row of arcade machines. So I'm trying to remember what was in there. It was a Donkey Kong Jr. machine, a Neo Geo, a Robotron, a radar scope, and the only known existing from the original 13, because they were told to get rid of the other 12, um, Sky Skipper. And that's where I actually played Sky Skipper. Now, when the gentleman found that out in the wild PCB that was still running, it was converted to Popeye. Because the story goes is that they made 13, they put it on location, it didn't do well, so Nintendo Japan told Nintendo America to destroy the machines. So the guy that was supposed to do it destroyed 12 and kept the 13th at Nintendo. Now, they took the other 12 PCBs and converted them all into Popeye and then sold them as Popeye machines. So that's why they were able to find that one PCB for the Sky Skipper that they recreated, and now there's two. But the original is still at Nintendo. And the last time I heard, when they went to scan the artwork for it, it wasn't working. But it was working when I was there. Fortunately, it is in Maine. They did. Someone dumped the ROMs years before that, and because they knew how valuable it was, and they knew it was the only one left, so they did actually dump it. The gameplay, in my opinion, is not very good, but it is correctly preserved. And now that being said, I know it's the smoking room because most of those games that are in that side actually have um, cigarette burns on them. And I was told by the person that was head of my team, who's been there for years, the reason why it was made in a smoking room is because they had a designated one, but there's one of the executives there that liked to smoke. So he would actually go in there with his laptop and chain smoke all day long. So, yeah. But yeah, I'm glad that they're actually able to get it scanned because it was starting to have fade marks when I was there. Um, but let me see what else happened while I was there. And I guess yeah, when I was in lot check, that's where all the supervisors were, and when they weren't working on other projects. So I got to know a lot of them, somewhat decently. So when I was working on Wind Waker, one of the guys was there, and I came through. He goes, "Oh, hi, Jeremy. I didn't know you were here." I said, "Yeah, I'm just working on this game." He goes, "Man, I'm glad I'm not on this one." I said, "Well, why is that?" "Well, I actually want to enjoy the game." I said, "Okay, you got a point." Because playing the game and testing the game are two totally different things, completely. Um, that level 4 that you really like to play, 10 times over, it's not so fun when you have to do it 200 times. Um, Also, like if you're doing a racing game, you're generally not racing. You're testing areas and making sure that they can't go in through the inside wall to create a shortcut. It's a lot different than actually playing the game. So, like I was saying, like on Wind Waker, um, you would get to a point where you were actually speedrunning the game because you needed to check something at the end of the game. So it's like, you get a new build every other day, especially or every day, especially at the beginning, and you would have to start your save all over. So you would get really good at the beginning of the game. I think we were getting down to the point of like on Ocarina of Time, we were getting through that first boss pretty darn quickly. Okay, I had a. Oh, don't. Okay, but anyway. What else? Oh, yeah, in the museum area, they also had a big giant area that beside it that was kind of set up as like with all the what do you call it? Store displays with all the boxes and stuff. That was kind of cool. What else was in there? Oh, there's just or as I usually say, Nintendo likes to march to the beat of their own drum. They don't care what everybody else is doing. But I didn't. I was kind of sure, or kind of thought I knew how their thought process was, but I didn't fully understand or get the realization until I worked there. um, Now, I did one of the time periods that I was there was during Halloween time, and they actually had a guy dressed up in the Mario costume for employees' kids. And they had a Halloween party for them. Um, every once in a while, in the commissary area, they would have things for the people working there. One of which was Jones Soda did a special print of the Green Apple flavor for Star Fox. I might have kept the bottle somewhere. Um, what else? Uh, yeah, I'm not doing very well talking. um, Oh, one of the other things, when I was there was a guy I was working with, and he was a vegetarian, and he was just born, or not born that way. He was raised that way, so it's okay, no problem. But he would always say, "So Jeremy, how's your bloody burger?" And I said, "Well, um, it tastes like murder, and murder is good." But I would give him a hard time because he was a vegetarian, but he didn't like to eat salad, which is really weird. Um, he would eat French fries and peanut butter sandwiches, and I was like, man, you really need to eat a little bit healthier. So I eat more salad than you do, but it was kind of silly. Um, no, I think that's about it in regards to that. But probably should start this game over. But already lost 2 lives. But if you have any more questions, I'm sure someone will ask me later. Oh, I forgot about that. While I was there, I actually applied for a full-time position. Um, and I will never forget it because I interviewed for it, did pretty well, I thought. And they called me back a week later. And this, I will never forget this. I wish I could pause this. But they told me, Jeremy, you are a great candidate and oh no, the perfect candidate and obviously qualified, but we decided to go with a different candidate. I was like, those things don't go together. They do not go together. But oh well, they lost on a good employee, so. And I could also show them how to play their Donkey Kong because they had a free play switch on it, hanging out through the coin chute, and they did have it would just be hung on that coin up screen all day long because they would have like 20 credits on it and then no one would touch it all day. But since I'm not talking as much anymore, let's do one more rearranged. Oops. And I'll have to concentrate a little bit more for this. Why is the high score only 500? When I started it today, the power was too low. I hope it didn't power cycle. Because it remembers all my unlocked stuff. So let's. Okay, all my high scores are gone. Okay. Time to make new high scores, I guess. I guess I'm just flummoxed today. Actually, is it faster this way? Alright. Maybe Joe can tell me why that happened, but as of right now, it doesn't like me very much. I meant as in my score going erasing. Eh, eh, eh. That was kind of close. Never keen on this game. I understand why people like it, but it's just not my bag. It's a shooter, not a platformer. Actually, the one I get stuck in my head all the time, and that's even before I had this board, was the Donkey Kong Jr. stuff. It's right up there with the store from Fantasy Zone. D2K. Oh, come on. Really? Oh, of course. And he's going to go, okay, fine. Oh, at least I got rid of two of them. Oh, and other Joe news. So I have a track and field machine. Has Newman Athletics, Newman Athletics 2 Mock Breakers, and the Hyper Sports rearranged board, which plays track and field and Hyper Sports. So currently, the only one that's working correctly is Newman Athletics, because I actually got the capacitors replaced on that last year. Oh man, this is excruciatingly slow. So the Mock Breakers board just decided out of the blue to stop playing. I knew I jumped too early. stopped playing audio. So I sent that out to get the capacitors replaced because I could probably do it myself, but that's an $800 Canadian board now. So I didn't want to take any chances. Um, and then the Hypersports Rearranged board runs, it's 95% working, but every once in a while the audio for the voice samples just doesn't work correctly. Every once in a while it'll run correctly if I press down on one of the chips, so it's probably a socket issue. Um, so I sent both of those boards out to get repaired. And one is in Richmond in BC getting repaired, and the other one is in Windsor, Ontario getting repaired. So hopefully I get those before I go on vacation, which is at the end of the month. Don't tell any thieves around town that I'll be gone, but I'd like to play track and field again. Because people love to bash the heck out of their arcade machines. I knew I thought I'd make it, but I didn't. Okay, we'll go this way first. But yeah, that what do you call it? Track and field board. Okay, that was just silly. The track and field machine was a scratch build, and then about a few months ago, I found another actual track and field cabinet in a place nearby. Okay, that one I could have made. Of course, now I'm not going to make it. Okay. Of course, it's out in the middle of nowhere. I could hear banjos playing when I was picking it up, but and yes, those kind of people live up in Canada too. If you didn't know, I am from the States. I am from Iowa. I'm just here as an onlooker at this point, but my kids are here, so come on, buddy, come on up. So it's in this varying state of repair. So where are you going? Okay. But it came with a bootleg Wonder Boy in Monsters Lair, I think. It's a System 16 bootleg board. So pushed up. Oh well. But I was thinking about moving all my stuff over to it, but the more I look at it, I'm thinking of just restoring it and putting in my working track and field board into it and selling it that way. We'll see. But the idea is hopefully this week or next, getting some money over to my friend who does woodworking, who can help me build a Donkey Kong cabaret. So that way I can play on actual hardware. Because I've been buying individual parts for cabaret build, and I'll probably make artwork for it. So I'll probably make that available, or hopefully to other people that want it. But we'll see. I gotta figure out a way to do that without let's just say a way to protect my efforts and my investment into it. Because we all know how these things work. You know, one gets out there and then people like to ignore copyright Because the way I would do it is I would do it so that I'm not breaking any copyright either. That's one of the things I wanted. Oops, I knew that's what happened. I wanted to do with that topper. I wanted to make sure I didn't have anything tied back to any Nintendo stuff, right? That sounded like a bug there. There's two separate fall sounds there. You see that? It gave me the points, but it killed me. That's just wrong. Oh, there it was again. There's a double fall there. I needed to start over anyway. Oh, there it is again. How about I just upload this and we'll see how it goes.